Hello, and welcome back to the Hilariously Unemployed podcast. I'm your host and favorite opportunity seeker, Dana Duckworth, aka the Big Speaker. Always excited to be here with you all and share what's going on in my world and the world of those of us who are indeed hilariously unemployed. What have I been to? Been up to? I've been up to a bit of a tour. It is conference season and it is full force, and I have been everywhere from Columbia, South Carolina to Denver to North Carolina, and I'm preparing to go to Vegas and then Raleigh. So lots going on in my world, and I can't be more thankful for the opportunities to talk and share some of the knowledge that I've gained over my corporate career for so many years. Now, what's going on in the world? Well, the world is still a hot mess. In case you didn't know, I'm pretty sure you did, but just to remind you, we're in this together. Well, some of us. All right. So, what's going on? The current unemployment rate is 4.2%. That means you who are in that 4.2%, this podcast is for you. Hello and welcome. Some of the most recent big news when it comes to layoffs is Microsoft. They dropped a bomb this week with 3% of their workers being laid off to adjust for AI business. That is more than 6,000 people that are going to be impacted by Microsoft. The adjustment is a calculated step to optimize resources and ensure continued robust investment in Microsoft's burgeoning AI platform. Now, the people think they're being replaced by the AI, but Microsoft says that's not the case. I don't know. I don't work there. You be the judge. I'm just here to give you the headlines. Burberry, luxury brand, cut 1,700 jobs. Okay, so if you work there, if you're Burberry salesperson, manufacturers, whatever it is you did there, I'm so sorry to hear this, that the luxury brand has decided to cut 1,700 jobs from its employment as of May 14th. Panasonic, another one, cutting 10,000 jobs. That's a whole lot of folks, a whole lot of impact, and a whole lot of people that are losing a paycheck. And for some of us, our entire livelihood. And then to round it out, UPS plans to cut 20,000 jobs this year alone as part of a cost-cutting effort linked to delivering less of Amazon's packages. Mum's the word on that one. And then, of course, we know that the largest impacts of those who have joined our hilariously unemployed community are those who work in federal agencies. Over half of the layoffs this quarter entirely came from slashes to government jobs. Again, I'll just show you my face, but I won't say a thing. You know what I mean. Over 150,000 jobs cut in February and March. We the people have a problem, y'all. But enough about that. I am here, as always, to bring you some laughter. Despite the fact that jobs keep getting cut and we find ourselves in this situation, don't worry. There is a rainbow that has a pot of gold on the other end of your hilariously unemployed story. I like to bring you folks who have been through it, who have expertise in it, unfortunately, who have resources for you and are truly champions and are willing to share their story because they know how it feels to be in this predicament. Today, I'm so excited to welcome Christine Burns, who's a seasoned leadership facilitator and team dynamics expert with a career spanning management consulting, human resources, and executive coaching. What doesn't she do? Christine Burns, welcome to the show. Please say hello to the hilarities.
Woo! Happy to be here, Dana. Thanks so much for having me, and a happy Friday to you and everybody out there.
I'm so happy to have you. Thank you so much for joining me. And like we do every time, first things first, have you ever been hilariously unemployed?
I have. October 2023 is my hilarious unemployed date.
All right. So your expiration date was October 2023. So it's been a while.
18 months, 18 long months.
It's been a long journey. So we
Yeah.
want to get right into what happened, how it happened, and where we are going from there. So before we do that, let's take a journey back to your early career and talk about some of your thoughts on what success would look like for you and how you started your corporate career.
Yeah, thanks. So I come from a pretty traditional family. I was born in the Bronx. I had three options: be a doctor, be a lawyer, be an accountant. And I knew I didn't like blood, and I didn't really like arguing with people, though people who know me might say that's not true. I ended up with accounting. So I went to Fordham University. I graduated with my accounting degree. I went and got my CPA, got my job at Ernst & Young, and started my career off 10 years at EY, which I absolutely loved. I moved into management consulting, finished my MBA, and then moved into HR following that. And I've been in the people space ever since that and absolutely love it. But I climbed that ladder for 20 long, long years. And I'm here to say that I was paid off with a nice call one day that said, I'm sorry, but you are no longer employed here. So
Okay.
Success for me, I really thought it was going to be get a pay bump, get a bigger title, more years under your belt, know bigger people, you see bigger, you're in the room with bigger people, you go to the fancier events, you wear nicer things. And that's what success really looked like for me. And I was hell-bent on getting it.
So you were hell-bent on climbing the career ladder in the way that it's already designed for you, right?
100%.
Okay, so let's go back to that fateful day when you got that phone call. You don't have to name your employer, child, but tell us what you were doing, what the company kind of does, and how that went down.
Yeah, so I spent 17 years in professional services, and really, those were my people. But I just got to a point where I was bored, to be honest with you. I went and worked for a startup, which was in the gambling space, and I love them, but I made it 6 months. I would get a paycheck, then I wouldn't get a paycheck, then I'd get a paycheck, then I wouldn't get a. I was like,
were they gambling your paycheck, Christine?
I'm like, I'm going on 40. I need to know where that money is coming from, right? Yeah. And so I totally got where they're, but it gave me such an appreciation for the vibe, right? The grind that these guys go through when you're a founder in a startup. So no regrets there. But because I found myself in the gambling space, I also found myself getting jobs presented to me from big places in Las Vegas. So if you know any big gambling houses in Vegas, I may have been employed by one of them. I was there literally 4 months, And I went in under the guise that I was supposed to do one job, and I should have known that something was up because the job description and title that I was given versus the job I was verbally told I was going to do and the job that I was being interviewed for were very different. And so I should have seen the writing on the wall and lesson on me. But I also go into most relationships with employers thinking people are honest and things are not, I'm not going to get bamboozled, by my employer. And so, if you're a hardworking person and you go into an organization that's never had your function before and you go and do your job, people know, people take note, they notice, right? And that's pretty much what started happening. And the bigger company that owned the smaller company did not like that at all. Who's making this mess? Who's putting in all this policy? Who's telling people what they really should know about their benefits and what they have at their disposal? And so I'll never forget, I was taking my partner to a physical therapy appointment. And I saw the phone number come up, and it was weird because it said that it was from the city where I was employed. And I was like, that's strange. I never pick up a spam number. Never. Right. I don't know what made me pick this number up. And all of a sudden it was like, hey, Christine, do you have 10 minutes? And I was like, sure. And I knew the voice on the other end. I knew it. And he was like, okay, I'm on the phone with HR and this person. And we have to have a discussion with you. No feedback was given to me before this. No chance to change what I was doing. Just thank you very much. We've decided we're going to go in a different direction. Here's a fat package, which also let me know that they had definitely messed up. Girl, I'm in HR. I know what you're doing.
Yes, we know what's happening here. It's a cover-up.
I see you. I see you. So then I went home. I was shocked, literally in shock. And I went home. I'd never been laid off before, and nothing was a weirder feeling than opening your work laptop and not being able to get into it.
Yeah.
It's so violating, right? It's got everything you own on it. It
Mhm.
has all of your like it's got personal stuff on it that
Yeah.
you saved down a Chase bill. Like put your
You
health care on
merge
there.
your personal and your work life on those computers. Like,
Right. There's no work-life balance or
no,
separation
be
anymore. It's
clear.
integration,
I'm
right?
only focused on one laptop. I don't have time to keep going back and forth.
One phone, one laptop. You want to see what I'm up to? IT, enjoy yourself all
It's
day.
fine. Mhm.
You can have at it. And so yeah, I just got home. I couldn't turn my laptop on, and I turned to my partner, and he was so supportive. And he was like, I was like, "What do I do now?" And he was like, "I don't know, but I got to go back to work." And I was like, "Wait, no, no, like what am I doing?" He's like, "Christine, you're
Not
gonna have
going
to
to
figure that one out, girl. Like, go figure it out." And so figure it out I did. But for everybody who's out there, I empathize with that call.
Mhm.
I empathize with that moment. I empathize
Yeah,
with the entire, it's a grieving process, and
it
one
is.
that for some people takes a really long time, and for others, yeah.
Well, let's unpack this. Okay, so you were working at a startup. We know startup culture is just like you're in it and you love it some days and you hate it other days. But when you look back at it, the amount of growth and really the things that you were able to see come to life through your work. I love
Yeah.
startups because you can see your work and the progress and the impact of your work like day one. Okay, you
Yes.
want me to do this for you? This is my thing. I'm
Yes.
gonna do it. Oh, I have this idea. You'll be able to see the impact very quickly in that organization because it doesn't already exist.
Yes.
You then get picked up by a larger gambling establishment,
Yes.
not be named, and you go into that with the promise of one job. So, what was the job they told you were going to be doing?
They called it people operations specialist, and I am, no offense to anybody who, like, listen, I come from the Bronx. I come from a very humble upbringing. Like, call me the janitor. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Pay me what I'm worth. And
Mm-hmm.
so said you were going to be a people operations manager. Sure. Whatever. I mean, the whatever was written on the piece of paper was not what I was being told. And so I
Mm-hmm.
assumed with my HR background that you've got a full-time position open. You have a head count. And you had to
Yeah.
get that head count no matter how you wanted to describe it as a business person. I've
Mm-hmm.
been there. I totally get that. So it's okay to me that if you want to call me whatever you want to call me, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm being told that these are the problems you're having. You have engagement issues. Oh, the other thing was it was a flat organization. Nobody
Explain to
reported.
the audience what that means.
Nobody reports to anyone. There is no hierarchy. It is flat, which is like the funniest utopic craziness I have ever been through,
In a
too.
large gambling establishment, this is how they're running things.
So this was just the digital arm of this
Okay.
very large gambling establishment. So they had an online sports book, and that group of people who hired me was 300 people big.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when they started at 12 people. So yeah, it seems like you can definitely do the concept of, hey, like nobody's going to report to anybody. But at some point,
Mm-hmm.
you find that might. Now, if people are interested in that, there's a book called Going Horizontal or Going Flat.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite interesting. And it has worked in certain organizations. But the motivation and the coaching that people need is
Yeah.
not there because
Yeah.
nobody's responsible for anybody's growth. So that
And
makes it difficult.
accountability
Yeah.
also. It's just like, what?
Accountability is not there. Yeah. So, I mean, again, do you hope that and wish that people are naturally intrinsically motivated to
Right.
do their job every day? Sure. Sure. But the reality is you're not, which is
Yeah.
actually quite funny because that brings me to, a little bit of like the struggle I had when I got laid off about my worth, right? Because and we can talk about that, but I
Yeah.
think there's definitely a worthy issue that people have when they get laid off. You feel worthless,
Yeah.
and because you don't have that accountability structure.
Yeah. Okay. So this flat organization, nobody's reporting to anybody. I think that is the Wild West, honestly.
Wild West.
You're working there, you're causing good trouble because you're doing all the things that you think should happen in an organization. And they're like, no, that doesn't work for us. We don't want you here any longer. So
Well,
go ahead.
like what's crazy is they went silent, and so I almost had like everybody just started, all the management just avoided having conversations with me. Every time I had a meeting with like a senior person, it was like, ooh, it's canceled last minute. And I also think this might have happened. There was a call with the big boys in the
Mhm.
gambling shop, and one of the people on the call decided to make a joke that they were going to roofie their somebody on the call to make sure that they won a poker tournament, and it was an all hands call. And afterwards, people came to me because I was in an HR position, women, men, and they were like, "Did you just hear what I heard?" And I went to the CEO and I said, "We got to address this. Like, I know you didn't say it, but the powers that be did say it. So we got to like do something about this." And I don't think they like that. So maybe I was
Well,
doing my job too well in multiple fronts, but I will not stand for that crap. Nicely.
well. This is the turn of events. That is a wild to say in general, but definitely in a workplace on an all hands call when all hands
Oh,
are literally on
oh.
deck. So it seems like there was some type of, I don't know, they didn't want you there anymore because
Well,
you,
remember what industry we're talking about.
yes,
Gambling is a male dominated industry. It
yes,
is traditionally something that happened in a place where people were, at a gambling table. Maybe there's alcohol involved. Like,
mhm,
and sure, they have done, the company I work for did a great job diversifying. I do not
mhm,
want to say that, like, their DEI struggle wasn't there. Also,
mhm,
you're talking about a technology arm of a company. And so
mhm.
finding women in that space is hard to begin with.
Yeah,
But when the powers that be get on a call and are rallying people around a charity poker event and say, "Hey, I'm going to roofie my enemy in this to make sure he doesn't win like he always does on an all hands call,"
mhm.
I can't
Well,
with that.
Christine, I think you've done it. I think you've provided the wildest story this season. I mean,
Woo!
last season we had some that were pretty wild, but you have set the bar for season 3 with this. Okay.
I'm here to serve, Dana.
We appreciate your service. So you get the call, you're at an appointment with your partner, you go home. Tell me what that first week is like for you because that was like a haze for me.
Yeah, yeah. So I've struggled with my mental health my whole life. I've never been
Mhm,
quiet about that.
mhm.
Depression came fast and it came furious. The one thing I did get to continue to do, which I'm so proud of myself, I went to Orange Theory every day. I went to go work out every day. I just kept going at it. It was kind of my place to like take out my aggression and my anger. Which I've never used the gym as that. Like, real gym people are like, yeah, I get all my like energy. I'm a heavy girl. Like, I'm like a no, the gym is like the worst. Like, I wake up in the morning, I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. Right. And so like I went to Orange Theory every day, which I think was extremely helpful for me. It gave me a structure I didn't have. And then the first thing I did was start scrambling like a crazy person. Like, okay,
Mhm.
got to get my resume together. I got to get on LinkedIn. I got to start looking for jobs. And I started to look at jobs that were exactly what I had done the past couple of ones, right? People and culture,
Mhm.
engagement, CHRO type roles or something
Yeah.
reporting to a CHRO. I just didn't have space, or I hadn't made space to think about, like, okay, just because you've been on this conveyor belt for a very long time, is this the conveyor belt you want to stay on? Like,
Right.
I've been working since I was 14. Like, I had the 5 a.m. Sunday shift at Dunkin' Donuts, time to make the donuts. Like, I worked in a lawyer's office. I have been working since I was 14. I went to school at night during my undergrad, and I worked during the day full time. So, like, I had never stopped to say
Yeah.
to myself, what is it that I want my life to look like? And where does my job fall into that?
Mhm.
Right? Because my life was my job.
Correct. For a lot of us, we are synonymous with our employer, and our worth is so much in our title or what it is that we do or our expertise. I know you kind of touched on a little bit before, but talking about how you kind of lose your self identity, that was very, very hard for me. I did not know who I was, and like you, I focused on my physical fitness because mental health is something that I've also struggled with. And like, even if you haven't had struggles with mental health in the past, when something like that happens to you, it kind of rocks your world. So you may be
Oh, you
anxious.
want to have a mental health breakdown? Go get yourself laid off.
Yeah, it is one of those situations where it's like, what is happening? I'm in a
Yeah.
fog. Do I get up? Do I lay down? Do I
Yeah.
eat? Do I overeat? Do I work out? Do I overwork out? Do I
Yeah.
spend 8 hours on the computer applying for jobs? It's a very hazy time. You're literally trying to figure out what happens next. And
Yeah.
until I kind of really like allowed some of that haze to clear up and say, hey, this happened really, really fast, right? We're going to have to slow down. We're going to have to slow down, because the next day you want to go and you want to apply. You've got to slow down and give yourself some grace and a break to just say, hey, this really traumatic thing just happened. I need to set my mind around that before I can go full force into the next thing.
And I think what stops people from being able to do that is paying bills, right? Like, right? Like, so I'm a woman without kids. I can't imagine what it is like to have to
Mhm.
provide for a family, for you to be either sole breadwinner, co-breadwinner. Your health insurance is tied to that. I
Correct.
can't imagine, because I am telling you, as somebody who did not have that problem, that I struggled so
Mhm.
much with this issue. And I'll share like some resources that I did later, but that taking that time, even if it's not, some people are like, yeah, it took 3 months and went and traveled. Okay, good for you. Like,
Mhm.
I LLC'd myself 3 weeks after I got laid off. I was ready, right?
Yep.
But that time that you need to sit and grieve the thing you thought you had that was secure, right?
Mhm.
The thing that's
Mhm.
been taken away from you, the thing and the way it's done is
Yep.
so important too. I think people do not talk about the way that people get laid off enough. It
Mhm.
is usually done with little compassion, little thought for the person on the other side, little uh, you know tools being given to people on what they should do next. And I know this because that's what happened to me. They said, here's 40 grand. See you later.
No, that was a very nice severance. They definitely did something wrong.
Yeah. And I was like, what?
And how long did you work there?
4 months.
They gave you a grace.
Somebody messed up. Somebody messed up.
Wow.
Wild, 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 wild.
Okay, tell me
Oh, and,
about.
and 19 shares of their very declining stock. It's very exciting. I'm a millionaire.
um Funny enough, I got invited to a happy hour by my old
What?
some of the people from my old employer, that some still work there. And they were like, hey, we want to do happy hour from some of the former. And I'm like, y'all, my life was in shambles after that. I don't want to. happy hour. Okay. I want to have the hour that I'm having.
Yeah, for sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
it is wild. Okay. So you wrote a piece called You Got Laid Off and Nobody Cares. Let's talk
Yeah.
about that. Tell me like what mind space you were in, and then tell the audience what the piece was really about and what it meant to you.
Yeah. So the thing I struggled, it's not most, one of the things I struggled with after being laid off was, how do I tell people I've been laid off? I was
Mhm.
so like the shame. Like, if you
Yeah.
ever watch Game of Thrones and like them like banging the bell of the girl going
Dang.
name and I'm naked, right? Like, I felt so exposed, right?
Yeah.
The
Mhm.
girl who, got her CPA, went to EY and got her MBA on the weekends, and is a professional certified coach and
Yeah.
climb, and
She's
now I got
that girl, right?
and now I'm going to put that little green thing on LinkedIn that's like, I'm open to work. Like, I didn't know how to describe it, to tell people, and
Mhm.
to do it in a way that made me feel okay.
Yeah.
Um, I super open book, you can tell, right? Like, I'll tell you anything.
Mhm.
But for this, felt like I was saying something that was so personal and scary, like something I hadn't yet dealt with, but I knew I had to tell people. And so I just started to go out and interview with people. I started to talk to recruiters. I started to talk to my network. And it was just so interesting that the reaction people were having to me telling them that I was laid off was, oh, sorry to hear that. So what's up next? Or, yeah, the market's pretty crappy. What's up next?
So what's up?
And
And the how's it going? How's the hunt? How's the search? Stop.
yeah, totally. Right. And the recruiters were the ones that like scared me the most. Cause like, as a person who's been in HR, I know I have a bias when I see somebody's resume and I'm
Mhm.
like, they were there 4 months, right? I had mentors tell me to not even put it on my resume. They were like, don't put, I was like, but it's such a good story, right? And they're like, nope, 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 don't put it on there. People are going to know. People are going to know you are laid off. And that's more the old school people are
Yeah.
really like, that's their
Yeah.
mentality. And don't get me wrong, right? Like, I have that weird straddle of my age, right? I'm
Mhm.
41 years old. So I was born in
Mhm.
1984. I didn't grow up with the internet, but I had it once we got to college. I didn't have a
Mhm.
smartphone, and now I do. So, the idea of sharing my life and being transparent about things is there, but it's still like influenced a lot by
Yeah.
the older culture, which is, don't tell people you were laid off. That means
Mhm.
you did something wrong. That means you're a mess. That means you didn't fit the mold, right?
Yeah.
And when I
Mhm.
look back at the experience I had with this company, I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong. You hired poorly, right? And when people hire poorly, that affects people tremendously, right? And that is how layoffs happen. So, you thought you had needed more people than you did. You thought your business was going to grow faster than it did. You
Mhm.
thought you needed a role that, guess what, the parent company was going to tell you, you don't need that role. You
Yeah.
know, that is how layoffs happen. And so it was really shocking to me that people didn't care. They didn't care the way that I thought they would care. They cared like, how can I help you? They
Right.
cared like, what do you want to do? How are you going to tell people what your value prop is? They
Yeah.
cared that way. They didn't care in the way that was like, oh, like, Christine, you failure. And so I thought it was even more interesting that when I wrote the piece, it was my coming out piece to be like, I got laid off, right? Like,
Mhm.
and by the way, it's not as bad. The perception is not as bad as you thought it was.
Correct.
The emotions that go along with it suck. The
Mhm.
finding the job sucks, but it's not, nobody really cares anymore. It's a
No,
part
they
of life.
don't.
Yeah.
One, it's become way too common for way too many of us.
For
And then
sure.
COVID kind of sped that thing up with everybody not having work, right? And now we see people who have more unconventional backgrounds when we're looking at resumes. and times and gaps in their resumes. And it's just like, okay, well, what can you do? Like, what is your skill set? Does your skill set remain? Did you keep things sharp? So I love the fact that now we are giving folks the opportunity instead of just
Yes,
seeing that resume and saying, no, that's a gap. I don't even need
that's
to
a
know
no.
what happened there. That's a no for me. And then the fact that people like yourself writing that article, people like me are really taking the stigma and the scariness
Yes,
out of the fact that like, hey, this thing happened to you, but this can literally happen to anyone. So don't be ashamed. Don't have fear. Say that you are laid off because your community, those people that you talked about, they're not like, oh, shame on you for that happening. They're like, how can I help you? And what can I do for you? So I think
I
the
have all the time in the world for somebody who was laid off. I got more time for them than anybody else because, like, once you have it happen to you, you were automatically part of this group. You
yeah.
know, and the other thing is, it's on the public stage now. My dad worked for Enron and got laid off in the big Enron scandal,
Woo,
but like
girl,
nobody.
I got some
I
stories.
know, I know, I know.
You might have to get your dad on here.
Come here, Dad. No, come on down. No, but like but there was no public stage for that to happen on, right? Like sure, it was all over the news, but it wasn't Tom Burns got laid off, right? It
Right.
wasn't, so he didn't have to put the green banner on his LinkedIn profile to be like, hey, he went to a temp agency and sat in a room for, 2 hours trying to, with all the rest of the laid off people trying to find a job. That's how that was. So
All right. So fast forward. Let's talk about all of the things you are doing now, because we know that you said, hey, the corporate ladder, that was really the way that I was going. That was my focus. And that would have continued to be your life had this change not occurred. So, how did you decide to pivot that change? Was it just one day where you were like, you know what? I'm not going back to work. I'm
yeah,
not gonna.
I did a couple of things. I went to Barbados for 2 weeks with my best friend right after it happened, and I just sat. And I was like, okay, like if I started my own company, what would I call it? Like I'm one of those people who needs to see the house before I believe it's a place I'm going to live in. So I was like, okay, what would I name it? What would the brand look like? What do we do? Like, and she was amazing. Like she just sat there and listened to me. And I was like, I'm good. I could go out and do this. I can sell, my dad always said I could sell snow in the winter. Like I could do this. And the other thing I did, so I dreamed a little bit. I took some time to breathe and dream. And then I joined a great organization, free, just go by the book. And I'm not paid to say this. I don't even know this man. I wish I did. His name's Phil Terry, PHYL, phil.org. It's called Never Search Alone is the name of his book. And it's a
Mhm.
12-week process of stepping back. Either you're in transition from the job you want, you're in a job you don't like and you're looking for a job you want, or you've been laid off. And you, for free, can join their Slack community, and they will put you in a group of people who are about the same tenure as you, the same experience level, but all different industries and all
Mhm.
different types of jobs. And you meet on a weekly basis to go through this 12-step program, this 12-week program that, really gave me a chance to step back and say, what is it that I love doing? And what is the stuff I absolutely hate doing?
Mhm.
Which, sure, everybody says, yeah, you should just do that. But it gave me a structure, like a real structure, and people who I felt accountable to, that I was like, okay, I need to read the next chapter of the book. I need to do the exercise because
Yeah.
we're going to spend an hour and a half doing that. So Never Search Alone, Phil Terry, fantastic group of people. I just met another woman this morning who's in transition. She's like, I just joined Never Search Alone. So really just found a community, which I
Mhm.
think is the most important thing, that was supportive of me, but also didn't know me. And the one thing that they teach in the book is to ask a very pivotal question, which is, if you were me and everything you know about me, how would you go about finding a job? How would you
Mhm.
go about facing the job market? How would you do that? And that really helped me think through, one, what did I really want to do, but also what was my offering, right?
Mhm.
And so while HR was something and people stuff I'm good at and I like doing, what I realized I really loved was I spend my life coming from a place of curiosity. I'm naturally so interested in people, the decisions they make, the lives they live. And the other thing I love doing is creating experiences. And so for me, facilitation is a very natural thing. I love being at offsites. I love being in rooms with people who are parts of boards who are really like passionate about the things they do, but they're struggling to get strategic alignment or they're struggling to get everybody on board with something. And that
Yeah.
is something I just do really well
Mm-hmm.
naturally. And so I always said that if somebody would pay me to do that, I wouldn't work another day in my life. I wouldn't work another day in my life. But I did not figure that out. I got laid off October 2023. I did not figure that out until March of 2024. I didn't get my first paid gig until July of 2024.
It takes time is the message that you did. So you just gave them a amazing resource. So audience, if you heard her, that is the way that she's gotten through this and so many others, it sounds like. So check that out.
Check
Let
it.
that be a resource for you as well. And I love finding the things that you are just naturally gifted and naturally talented at, but also like, what do you love and what would you do for free?
Yeah.
And how can you get paid for what you love and would do for free? For me, it's speaking and opening this big mouth and just yapping.
And
If
you're
I
great at it. And
can,
you're
yeah.
great at it. And if it doesn't feel like work, and that was the thing. So what I did do, how I got my first gig was I started facilitating for free. I facilitated for Never Search Alone for free. I started
Mm-hmm.
to facilitate for YPO for like very little money. I
Yeah.
started to facilitate anything that people would have who needed leadership in that role. And I was like, and then of course, it just starts happening. People are like,
Yeah.
oh, have you seen Christine? Have you heard Christine? Oh,
Yeah.
Christine this. And your name gets passed around and people
Mm-hmm.
have you top of mind. Right.
Yeah.
But I went the solopreneur way, right? So I'm not telling you a story where I got another full-time job. I am a solopreneur. I am out there every day. I am selling myself. I am selling my
Mm-hmm.
services. I am in groups. It takes work. But I
Yes.
am happier now than you
Yeah.
will ever find me in a corporate job. Ever. I will
Yeah.
never go back. No,
We
I
are
didn't
so
say that.
lucky.
I will go right back for the right job.
If the money is right.
The
I
money
can be bought, people. If the money is right, I will come back.
there's a price tag on everything.
I still want to do some of my own things, but if you can make the money make sense, then I can work
100%.
with part time at least. I as a solopreneur myself, I completely get what you are saying. You are now in business for yourself and you are constantly having to sell yourself. But I love that you started facilitating for free because not only did it help support you in what would be your future business, but it helped feed that need to still be giving in a way that, like, hey, I still like to work. I still have things to offer. So it starts to feed your self worth, right? You're no longer synonymous with that company or that job title, but it's like, hey, my worth is in the power of facilitation and I
Yeah.
can do that anywhere. So that will be carried along with me.
Yeah. And I think like the biggest mental health struggle I had at the time was realizing that my worth wasn't my paycheck and that my friends, my family, my network loves me without the money I make. Do
Yeah.
I love me without the money I make? That was the thing I had to figure out, right? And
I don't
like,
know that I love the lifestyle without the money that I made, but
right.
You love me.
Yeah, 100%, right? And like, what's important to me, like really going through those things to be like, what can I give up? And what are the things that actually matter, right? And once I started to figure that out, nobody figures it out 100%. I'm still on the journey, right?
Mhm.
But once you start to talk about money and your job in that way, it totally changes your relationship, not only with your employer, even myself, right? Like I have to look at myself as my employer, be like,
Yeah.
how am I treating me? And that's
Mhm.
a really important thing too, right? Because now I
Mhm.
am my own employer. So how much am I paying me? How much am I, right? So there's a
Yeah.
whole. thing there.
Love that you're a person who has turned that passion into their profession, like me, and really leaned into the things that you love. Which another one is a lady no kids. So tell the
Lady
folks
no
like what's this about? What is this?
Lady no kids. So off the back of the facilitation, I was like, you know what? I had amazing, absolutely amazing experience with a bunch of women who are ladies with kids. In New Orleans, we got stuck in the snowstorm in January in New Orleans, which
Wow.
was wild. And that's a story for another time. But when I came out of that, I said, I want to do this the rest of my life. Like, if I can do retreats and create experiences where people connect and find what their purpose is and what's important to them. My partner was like, "You're going to be a yogi?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "You're going to do a surf camp?" And I'm like, "Definitely not." Again, I'm from the Bronx, right? Like, none of those things are available. So I was like, "Who am I?" And I turned around. I'm like 41 years old. I don't have kids. I don't, whether that was my choice, whether that was chance, whether that was circumstance, doesn't matter. Where are the rest of the me's? And then I started to really do some research around these women. And we are a full category of women that's growing very rapidly, right? And so we have discretionary time, we have discretionary money, and there's no community for us. There's no blueprint for our finances. There's no blueprint for, our mental and physical health, which is different. The things that people say to us are different. We go through menopause in a different rate than women who have kids. The way our relationships with our employers are different because you don't have traditional maternal needs to go home to. You're expected to take on more and be more fierce. And there's just no community. And I had questions. And so I've started Lady No Kids. It is a community for women who are like me. And again, doesn't matter if it was your choice to not have kids, your chance, your circumstance, whatever it was. And I want to bring people who have expertise and can look through this lens and help people who are like me, who have questions and anxieties and things. Like, there's tons of mom groups. Love moms. It's not anti-mom, not anti-kid, not anti any of that. This is, what about me? And like, if I don't have generational wealth behind me, what do I do next?
Yeah, I love that. I love that you found a space and a community that you want to cultivate for other people based off of things that you've experienced. And I am a mom, so of course that's not my journey, but I do have friends who don't have children, and they they too have struggles. Like they too have challenges. They too have the workplace nuances that we all go through. So finding a space for them, I think that's very important. And I love that you've done that. I mean, when I think about it, I think back, like, am I guilty of saying like things like, to other people who don't have children? And probably because you know how moms get. I'm a mother. I'm a mother.
And that's why there's a lot of stuff out there that is kind of anti-mom, anti-kids.
Yeah.
Like, let's be clear. I love my mother. She is like my number one. I love moms around me. I think they're fucking superheroes, right?
They
But
yeah.
I still have
So
I
are
still
women
have an
without
experience.
kids. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, so
I
are
still
women.
have an experience, right? And that one is just as valid as everybody else's, right? And
Absolutely, absolutely. I love
so yeah.
that. This has been quite the bingo card of an episode. I never thought I'd be hearing the words Enron or Roofie on one of my shows, but you have successfully
You're welcome.
captivated me, and I am quite sure my audience. For anybody listening who's been in your situation, been in my situations, going through this, or somebody who even wants to like quit or start anew or find something fresh, what is your advice to them when it comes to their next move?
Do not run away from something. Run towards it.
Yeah.
I have run away from many jobs, from many managers, from many situations. And there is a big difference between running away from something and running towards it. And you know it when you're doing it. It's in your gut. You freaking know it.
Yep.
Don't jump because it's so bad. Like, 3 months can change a month can change everything. 3 months can change everything. So just run towards something. Do not run away.
I love that. And literally, what's the worst that can happen? You go to another bad job? I mean,
You're just kicking the can, man. You're kicking the can down the road. You just go from job to job to job and chasing that paycheck, forget it. It's never, you'll make more money when you do something that you care about.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Walking in your purpose is key to your success, whether that looks like you being inside of a corporation and doing the things that you love, or being outside and doing the things that you love for yourself. Hilarious. Make sure that whatever it is you are in alignment with. And what's the worst that can happen? They tell you you're fired or you're laid off. And baby, we got episodes for that. So you'll be okay. Last but not least, I definitely want to let the audience know how they can connect with you and support you and your communities that you're building.
Sure, absolutely. You can find me on Lady No Kids on Instagram. And I write every Friday on Substack, Lady No Kids. That's where my newsletter, and I'm growing my community. And then we'll start doing some remote first events, and we'll be doing some in-person events. So if you are a Lady No Kid or you know other Lady No Kids, pass it along. I'm here to create a community where people like have space and can do genuine connections and have resources that they need. And that's all I want to do. So.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Christine, I can't thank you enough for coming to share your story, your very unique journey, and your experience with myself and the audience, along with wonderful resources that they can lean into. Hilarious. You know that I am always here for you and still booking for season 3. So if you or anyone you know ain't got no job, you know where to send them, right over here to me. I've been your host and your favorite opportunity seeker. I want to wish you a wonderful week or weekend, depending on if you're listening on podcast platforms. I've been your host, y'all. Big Speak out. Bye.